I am Mohammad Shahban Sahito, Assistant Professor from IR Department, Sindh University. I have been working in a Sindh University for the 10 years. So I have completed my work, my PhD from Sindh University. My PhD is on the foreign policy of Pakistan. I was also students of the Sindh University of IR department, same university where I have been appointed as an first teaching assistant, then assistant professor. So this is my belonging from the Sindh University. My background, I belong basically from the very backward areas, from the town, from village Rukrani. It is situated in the Khairpur Miras and Talka Sobhedero. My experience, my life has been gone through so many challenges, so many troubles. My background, that is from the very poor family. I never thought that I will completing my education, I will be the doctor and I will have the opportunity of the PhD and something like this. So I born in the family where my parents, my grandparents, they were not so much educated. In the early phase of the life, in my childhood, it was like a villager. I have been herdman. I was just very belonging from the poor family. So my family was never expecting from me that I will be the graduated and the doctorate and the assistant professor. So I was first example from my village that I achieved. I appointed as a professor in the Sindh University, and I came as a first man boy that I was got admission in Sindh University. So from my village. So definitely Khairpur Miras is having the historical background. So my childhood was having so many challenges, so many experiences that I have done. And in the beginning, I was not so much inclined. I was not interested to having my education, to do education. When I was 5 years old, my father, because he was a religious and he connected with the religious parties and religious traditionally religious family, so I was put into the madrasas. And in the madrasas for 6 to 7 years, basic education I got from the madrasas. And then when I was 9 to 10 years old, then I just turned to the I left the madrasas and I got admission in the primary school. The primary school name is the Rukrani village, Rukrani primary school, and my education throughout my life, that is government schools. So that was very interesting that I am going to tell you my story. And then when I was completed my primary, so my uncle, he was settled in the Khairpur Miras in the city, and he asked me that I was not good in education. I was not even so much interested in education. So my uncle, he asked me that why should not I work, because he had a grocery shop, and I worked there for the 2 years. And even my parents, they were emphasizing me, they insisting me that I should continue my education. But in the beginning, I was reluctant because I had nothing to do with the education, because I have not background. But the first inspiration I got, and I inclined to the education, I'm going to tell you. In the 2 years when I was shopkeeper, and there was my uncle, he had a very good library. And the library that inspired me, that library was a closed library, and the books were the dump in the corners. In the free time, because I had a one room upstairs, so I was alone in the night time, and whenever the shop was closed. So I started, reading books. I remember when I was, only 6th class and 7th class, and when I completed my primary education, the thing that, I started, inspiration that I received, the library of my uncle, where the books were the very, historical books, classical books were available in that library. I remember very much that the first book that I started reading, that was, Uhediya Uheshiya, the Imam Rashidi, he was author and scholar of the, great politician of Sindh. I started reading. And the early, I didn't properly understood what is written in the book, but slowly I started to, reading, the habit that I developed of the reading. Then the book, which I really much, inspired from the book, the What is to be Done, Net Shah Kaje, the book that I read, I was in a 7th class, I very much remember. Whenever somebody is asking me when I started reading books, no doubt I started reading and learning from the madrasa, very traditional madrasa. But I was, in the 6th class and 7th class, I read the What is to be Done, Net Shah Kaje. The book was translated in Sindhi, and I got that book, picked that book, and started reading. It was translated, and I didn't remember the book that the page of the title that was torn up, and there was no any mention the author name. So I didn't remember that book was written, or the novel that was written by the Russian scholar by Tolstoy. I was believing that it is a book in Sindhi and it is a Sindhi author. Then after 2-3 years, when I started to knowing that the actual book was written by the Russian scholar Tolstoy, great novelist of the world. So the thing that I started, and then I involved, and I started reading so many novels, books, dastans, and the books that 7th and 8th class dastans I used to read. Then the Saint James and the Hasanuddin Rashidi. These books were available in the library. It was not big library, but the 100 and plus books were available of my uncles. So I started reading this way. My habit started to develop, and then I used to visit in the free time. Now I started believing that I should read. And then there was my friend. He was from the Khairpur Miras, and he asked me, because he was making company with me in the evening time. So he was going to school every day in a comprehensive school. He was a student of the 7th class. So he insisted me, why should not I take admission over there? So I shifted from these schools, and then I got admission in the comprehensive school for the 2 years, 6th and 7th class. I studied in the comprehensive school, Khatpur. Then that my friend, he took me every day. When the shop was off, I used to go in the evening to the such a library where I explored so many books. The books that I still very much remember that I started reading, Vidullah Sindhi, Maulana Azad, and some of the Saint James books, and many other Sindhi, Amar Jalil, that Dilji Dunya. These books started reading. This way my inclination, my habit, I become the fond of the books, and I still remain connected with the books. And these were the things. Then I started reading. Some of the story I was used to write, in a free time. And of course, I am not become the fiction writer, but these days I am writing columns in the English newspapers and in the Sindhi newspapers. But I started writing diaries and the columns and my, the thoughts that, I was believing. So I was telling you about my background of life. From the very beginning, from my childhood, I was sensitive. I was different from the different, my age groups, boys. And I was so not active in their games, and the boys in the village, they used to play. I was not so much active, but I like to be remain isolated. Isolation, I love isolation, and I used to go to the from the outside of village, and under the trees I used to carrying books and started reading, and sometimes white paper that I was writing my ideas, my thoughts, my things that were were just forcing me on my mind that I should write. And I remember I started writing. Still those writings are preserved with me, and I enjoy still reading them. So this was the thing. So of course, definitely my family, I was not even believing that I will be able to get admission in the universities, and I will completed my university education, because my family background and my parents, they were not even encouraging me. Even financially, they were not able to afford my education. This way, it was, all of a sudden, when I completed my, before completing my intermediate, for 2 years, one of the information that I want to share you, that how I struggled, how I suffered, how I went through so many challenges before the completing my degrees and my education, higher education. In the matric, my brother, he was elder, and he was supporting, he was helping my family, and he was a bank employee. In the I remember 1996. It was in my matric. I completed matric. He was died because of one of the hepatitis C or something. Then my family was, I became the elder of the family. I needed to support my financially to my family, because we had a big family, 4 or 5 brothers, 4 or 5 sisters, and my father was just simply employed in the hospital. So because of my sensitivity, I was feeling deeply that I should contribute to my family. So I went to the Karachi. I worked in the one of the factories. It was garment factories. Garment factory for 2 years. I was working as a labor man in the garment factories. Then I was collecting books from the Regal Chowk, from the Sadr. It was near Regal Chowk, my center of the garment. And in the Friday and the Sunday, I was buying the books from the Regal Mark and keeping with myself, and used to study.